Hey there. Um, yeah, I want to talk about something, I guess, very philosophical, but also practical. And the question is, how do you deal with how do you deal with the issue that you're being born into an existing system? And, like, practically seen, that's like, how do you deal with it when you're born into a country, into a state, like state like um there's earth and nature, and then we have our concepts we put onto the material world, into nature, like, okay, here's a border, and this is the state, and this is mine, this is yours. And like, we predominantly live in that sort of state, like in another sense, in that state of mind. Like, we live in those concepts. And I mean, I don't mean to say they're something bad, it's just to be aware of that. And it can also be fun to live within those boundaries and concepts. It can give you safety. But yeah, so this is the one question, like this: how do you deal with when you realize you were born into a concept, into a system, and you start realizing like you don't agree with everything, but then maybe you're being pressured to do something you don't agree with. And how do you deal with that? Because you don't feel like you're a bad person or a criminal like that, but maybe the rules make you or define you to be a criminal. Then I'm not talking about really like uh, humanly bad things, like hurting another being. I'm not talking about that. I'm just talking about, I don't know what, yeah, like, where does it start, where does it end? But yeah, freedom in some way to act um, according what makes sense to you also. But I'm aware that that not every human being um, might be able to be in touch with that. Um, I mean, I think it lives within every human being, but yeah. So that's the one thing. And then there's the philosophical thing. Like, uh, if you believe, or not only believe, but realize that every moment you're being born, and to notice that there is this construct in your mind, all those, this set of beliefs, this belief system with in your mind, like, this is good, this is bad, blah blah blah. Like, when you get real with it, you're like, where does this even come from? And but you got to deal with it, you know and normally you just take it seriously and you just believe those thoughts until you stop and question them, even see that as a possibility to question your thoughts, if they are actually true, if they match up with reality, with the present moment. And maybe even with matter, like previously when I said, there's nature, there's earth, and then we have all those concepts that we put onto that. So those, I think, are like a generation further away from what's actually here. That's how wars start. One human being is convinced of this and that's right, and the other one is convinced of that's right, and then they both meet and they're like, hey, and they start fighting over something, which, where in both cases, probably, if there's a fight, then both are probably in an illusion, like in a concept, stuck in a concept. Otherwise there would not be any necessity for fight or war or anything. So we got this material, or this reality where I'm talking within the story, like, oh, I was born into this system. I'm being confronted with a demand from the system, and I feel like within my logical structure, within my personal system, I see no resonation with that, what's being demanded and asked of me. Um, Up till now. I mean, now I notice, because I've questioned a little bit, I feel like, okay, maybe I can find a way, maybe, or not maybe I can find a way, but I feel like, okay, I'm a little bit more enlightened to that, and then now I feel a bit softer. Um, yeah. So, yeah, like, to be concrete about this, our state where I'm living in, our country, has decided to obligationally, I think that's how I say it, like, to them, like, to say that every household has to pay a fee for distribution, television and radio distribution. I don't know how that is in other countries, but previously it was sort of a gray area. They still actually asked for it, but you somehow could also, just slip through or something like that. I haven't used that for like 16 years. Um, and I don't, they're not like really neutral, I think. And so I'm like, yeah, why should I support that? And well, for me, the main thing is, I think it's not right to demand something, to not leave an option, or to at least clarify, what will wait in the end, like a clear communication, a clear declaration. How will the process look if you do not comply? And not just like, okay, there will be a fee, but like, what if you don't pay the fee? Um, you know, so that you could also make up your mind better. But like, I mean, there's something in me that's just like questioning in general, like how did we end up or come to this point? Or actually, I think now would be the time where it is possible to actually question that or maybe change that. So that has been the past, there are all those wars and fights, like who's more strong, and who's stronger, and who wins and who loses. And I'm more for like, okay, let's, meet, like, what is the issue? Like, what is it about? You need money? Then there are different ways how to ask for it also, like, there's one like, you pay me, and that feels very, that's just off for me. Um so in my personal experience, uh I would need options, I just have the idea, like, we are used to that also now, like with different distributors. Um, so, like, okay, you could do that, the way they set it up. Either you paid for a whole year, or you can, choose to that they just take money every month, from your account with your consent. Okay, but then, or you can be also freed because you're sick, you're debilitated. I think that's a word. Because, whatever reason, I don't fit into any of these categories, I think, or I don't actually want to, step into that system and say, like, okay, oh, that's my diagnosis or whatever, you can find something if you want to. So that's okay, that's the one thing. But then I think, what if they would say, like, okay, let's make a premium version, it's like everything is included, like what you've been used to, maybe even a bonus. And so that would talk to people like, oh wow, that would be a positive way to invite people, like, ah, I feel good because I'm I'm supporting them really, and I'm getting premium, I'm like, I want that. And then they would have a standard version, like the essentials, like just, okay, news and safety reports or whatever. So I mean, those like in occasions of catastrophic events, I think it should be, everybody should be able to have access. I mean, in a time like now, you have access on it on the internet. Your neighbors will tell you, there's almost no way you cannot know. But still, that would be something, you would have access to. But that is something that, generally not really happens on a day-to-day basis. So we have a premium package, we have a standard package with essentials, blah, blah, blah. And then we have the possibility of donation to invite, or if you don't, want to use our programs, we would be happy if you would feel like donating a certain amount of money to us, And that would make me feel, for example, I would feel good about that. I would feel like, I'm supporting them, or I like, okay, because I have a budget, I didn't expect them to ask me to pay this like on demand. I don't have I didn't have the space within my budget to just, do that. And like on a one-time payment, they offered to, you can pay it monthly, but I don't want that because then I can't get out of that, probably. So, so if they would ask, feel free to donate, or we would be happy if you donate, then that's cool, I feel free, I can do that. But the last option that would be really important also as well is to say like, no, I don't support that, or I don't want to, or I cannot pay that, or I support other distributors, whatever, So you have those 4 categories, and they might be surprised who actually supports them really or wants their product, and if it's the national distribution, then they that's their main, I think their main obligation to inform about important things. Now you may discuss like, okay, what is important, what is not, that's another topic. But in my eyes, important information is not like so much, there doesn't exist so much, I think. Or if, yeah, then they could, like the real important stuff should be accessible for everybody, I guess. Yeah. So those are my concrete thoughts on that, or that's where I'm coming from, So like where I just noticed or realized like how do I deal with that if I'm born into a system, And it gets really philosophical. Also, like a lot of people probably ask themselves like, why was I born into this family? Or why, and that's a weird thing. Probably a lot of people might have asked themselves, but if you'd switch the family, I don't know if you'd be better off, because what you're really suffering from is your own personal system, your own thoughts, the constructs in your mind, the concepts. So in there, I feel like I get angry because like, why are those thoughts here, I don't, I feel so, how do you say that, restrained from, what's that word in English? Like I suffer so much because of what I'm thinking and believing, and I haven't questioned yet. And it's so, most of the time, it's not really easy to be open enough to question them, to get still enough to question them. I'm glad I know that I've got to know about this, that I'm aware of this, that's so powerful and helpful to me. But it is not so easy to access, that openness, to be that open to question what you believe. So that's what I wanted to talk about. Thanks for listening. And yeah, feel free to comment what you think about this, if you feel the same, if you have any solutions that work for you. Yeah, thanks.